Okay, let's start with a wild idea. What if the real path to understanding wasn't through light, but actually through darkness? I know, it sounds completely backward, right? But that's the fascinating paradox we're diving into today.
I mean, it really does sound like a riddle, doesn't it? How can darkness, the very thing we usually connect with, not knowing anything, how can that be a source of light? That's the big question, the paradox we're going to try and unpack. And this quote, wow, it just cuts straight to the chase. Faith is a dark night for souls, but in this way, it gives them right. Now, this isn't just some pretty poetic line. It's making a huge claim about a totally different way of knowing things. But to really get what that means, we've got to first look at the limits of how we normally understand the world around us.
All right, section 1, when light becomes blinding. So here's a pretty wild thought to kick things off. What if the light we're so proud of, our own intellect, our reason, could actually be what's blinding us? Let's dig into how our normal way of seeing things might actually be holding us back from a much deeper kind of truth.
So to understand this, the source we're looking at makes a really clear split. It talks about two totally different ways of knowing. You've got natural knowledge on one side, and then you've got the knowledge that comes from faith on the other. And believe me, they are not the same thing at all. They work on completely different principles. Okay, so let's tackle the first one, natural knowledge. The best way to think about this is like, it's your CSI knowledge, right? It's everything you can prove with your five senses. What you see, hear, touch, taste, smell. It's all the hard evidence your brain can chew on and process logically. I mean, this is the foundation of science. It's how we get through our day-to-day lives.
Okay, but here's where things get really interesting. To explain why faith feels like darkness to our regular way of thinking, the text uses this just brilliant analogy. It says, think about the light of faith as being like the sun.
Just think about it for a second. If you go outside and stare straight up at the sun, does that help you see better? Of course not. Its light is so intense, so overwhelming, it completely blinds you. Well, the argument here is that the light of faith is exactly like that sun. It's so much bigger, so much brighter than the tiny little candle of our own intellect that it just washes it out completely. And so to our mind, that blinding, overwhelming light registers as nothing but darkness. Section 2, knowing without seeing. So if our natural intellect is blinded by this greater light, that begs a huge question, right? How in the world can we know anything then? Let's dive into how the source explains this idea of knowing without actually seeing. To make this idea less abstract and more concrete, the text gives us another really powerful analogy. It asks us to imagine a person who is born blind. So, picture this. You're trying to explain the color yellow to someone who's never had sight. They can hear you for sure. They can understand that you're talking about a concept. Maybe you describe it as warm or bright, but can they actually form a mental image of yellow? No way. They have zero sensory data for that. So how do they know what yellow is? They know it by believing you. Their knowledge isn't based on sight. It's based entirely on trusting the word of someone else. And this whole idea is summed up perfectly in this ancient quote, si no crederites, non intelligerites, which basically means if you do not believe, you will not understand. And that just flips our whole normal way of thinking completely upside down, doesn't it? Usually, we think we need to understand something before we can believe it. But for this kind of knowledge, belief isn't the finish line. It's the starting block. It's the key you need just to open the door to understanding. All right, section 3, the illuminating cloud. So, let's recap. We've got a light that's so bright it's blinding, and a way of knowing that has to start with belief, not sight. So how does this all fit together? Well, the source brings it home with one final, incredible metaphor. Check this out. This quote from Exodus. The cloud was dark and illuminated the night. Just think about that image for a second. You have this dark, mysterious cloud, but it's the very same cloud that is lighting the way through the pitch-black night. The darkness and the light, they're coming from the exact same source. And that's it, right there. That's the whole idea in a nutshell. Faith is that dark, illuminating cloud. To our normal senses, yeah, it's a total mystery. It's obscure. It blocks our regular line of sight. And yet, that very same darkness is what becomes the guiding light for the soul, especially when there's no other light to be found. And this isn't just some random one-off idea. You see it again in this line from the Psalms. Night will be my illumination in the midst of my delights. I mean, listen to that. It's not just about putting up with the darkness. It's about embracing it. It's saying, this night, this is my light. All of a sudden, the darkness isn't something to be afraid of. It becomes the very thing that allows you to see in a new way.
Okay, section 4, what darkness teaches us. So let's pull all these threads together. Let's really boil it down. After all this, what is this idea of an illuminating darkness really teaching us?
Okay, so what are the big takeaways here? First, faith isn't just a feeling. It's presented as a real kind of knowledge, one that just operates on a level way beyond our senses and our reason. Second, the reason it feels like darkness is because its light is just too bright for our normal intellect to handle. It gets completely overwhelmed. Third, and this is a big one, belief isn't the end of the journey. It's the very first step you have to take to even begin to understand. And finally, the ultimate punchline to the whole paradox, this darkness, this night, is what ends up becoming the very light that guides you.
So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, doesn't it? This whole concept really pushes us to rethink what it even means to know something. If knowledge isn't just about what we can see and prove with our own two eyes, well, what other ways of knowing are out there? What might we be missing?